Jordan. My name is Thusi. I am 11 years old in grade 6. Today I'll be reading James and the Giant Peach by Roald Dahl, chapter 17. Okay, let me start. At this moment, the scene inside the peach itself was one indescribable chaos. James Henry Trotter was lying bruised and battered on the floor of the room amongst a tangled mess of centipede and earthworm and the spider and ladybird and glowworm and old green grasshopper. In the whole history of world, no travelers had ever had a more terrible journey than these unfortunate creatures. It had started out well, with much laughing and shouting, and for the first few seconds, as the peach had begun to roll slowly forward, nobody had minded being tumbled about a little bit. And when it went bump, and the centipede had shouted, "That was Unsponge," and bump again, and "That was Unspiker." There had been a tremendous burst of cheering all around, but as soon as the peach rolled out of the garden and began to go down the steep hill, rushing and plunging and bounding madly downward, and the whole thing became a nightmare. James found himself being flung up against the ceiling and then back onto the floor, then sideways against the wall, then back up to the ceiling again, and up and down and back and forth and round, and at the same time all the other creatures were flying through the air in every direction. So were the chairs and the sofa, not to mention the 42 boots belonging to the centipede. Everything and all of them were being rattled around like peas inside an enormous rattle that was being rattled by a mad giant who refused to stop. To make it worse, something went wrong with the glowworm's lighting system, and the room was in pitchy darkness. There were screams and yells, curses and cries of pain, and everything kept going round and round. And once James made a frantic grab at some thick bars sticking out from the wall, only to find that there were a couple of centipedes legs. "Let go, you idiot!" shouted Centipede, kicking himself free, and James was promptly flung across the room into the old green grasshopper's horny lap. Twice he got tangled up in Miss Spider's legs, a horrid business, and towards the end of the poor earthworm, who was cracking himself like a whip every time he flew through the air from one side of the room to the other. He coiled himself around James' body in a panic and refused to unwind. Oh, it was a frantic and terrible trip, but it was all over now. Thank you.